Good day everyone. Today we will be discussing about the methods of the language arts teaching. So first is the grammar translation method. So the grammar translation method is a method of foreign or second language teaching which makes use of translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activities. The history of the grammar translation method dates back to Erasmus on 1466 to 1536, originally used to teach Latin and Greek late 19th and early 20th centuries. So earlier in 20th century, this method was used for the purpose of helping students read and appreciate foreign language literature. Um, these are the background of the methods of uh, grammar translation method. So, traditional method of second language teaching in schools, most common language teaching method, and stress the literacy development and teacher-centered. So the original purposes of the grammar translation method, it helps students read and appreciate foreign language literature, and students can become more familiar with the grammar of their native language, also write and speak their native language better. So this method is helpful for mental exercises. These are the principles and techniques of the grammar translation method. First is translation of a literary passage. In these principles and techniques, students will be asked to read a literary passage and then translate the target language into their native language. The translation may be written or spoken, or translation may be the students can show what they understand their meaning. The second is the ability of communicating in the target language is not a goal. So in these principles and techniques, the students ask questions in their native language and are also answered by the teacher. Also in their native language, the teacher asks students in their native language. So the third is deductive application of rules. So in these principles and techniques, it is important for students to learn about the forms or the grammar rules of the target language. So the grammar rules are presented with examples. Students are asked to apply the rules to examples they are given. And next is reading comprehension questions. So in these principles and techniques, students answer these questions in the target language. So answers to the questions may be in the reading text or based on the understanding of the students or students' own experiences related to the text. Next is the teacher as the authority. So, teacher decides whether the students' answers are correct. It is important for students to get the correct answers. So, if students answer incorrectly, the teacher will provide the correct answer. Next is memorization. So, students are asked to memorize new words, grammatical rules, and verb conjugation. The next one is fill in the blanks. So teacher gives students sentences with word missing, and students should fill the blanks in the new vocabulary or with a particular grammar type. The next is use words in sentences. So students are asked to make up sentences with new words they learn in the text. So in this technique, they can show how whether students really understand the new words. Next is composition. So in this principle and techniques, students are asked to write a composition in the target language, and the topic is based on some aspect of the reading text. And these are the advantages of the grammar translation method. First is easiest way for teachers to use. Um, does not It does not require teachers to speak good English or make good lesson preparations. The next is only uses the textbooks. And the next is least stressful for students teaching occurs in the first language. And the last one is students learn the new language without contact with native speakers. And the disadvantages of the grammar translation method is first is students lack comprehension, only translating word for word, and it does not allow students to create meaning in English. Students do not learn to read and extensive memorization. Uh, the last one is very little student center and student interaction. So in conclusion, in the grammar translation method, teaching involves any instructional technique that draws learners' attention to some specific grammatical form in such a way that it helps them either to understand it or metalinguistically and or process it in comprehension and or production they can internalize it. Now let's go to the direct method of language teaching. So in this method, it says that teach the language, not about the language. So in the mid and late 19th century, Europe experienced a wave of increasing opportunities of communication due to industrialization and international trade and travel. A need was felt for fluency and foreign language. Teachers had already found grammar translation inadequate and ineffective in developing communicative ability in learners. They strongly advocate an alternative method in which language was presented in context and the mother tongue was avoided. These principal advocates were Pendergast and Sauvier, who proposed what they called the Shra method that suggests radical change from grammar translation. It is this method that later on came to be known as the direct method. The method is not direct because meaning should be connected directly with the target language without translation into the native language. The theoretical assumption of the direct method is language can be learned only through demonstration. Instead of analytical procedures of explaining grammar rules, students must encourage to use language naturally and spontaneously so that they induce grammar. The learning of second language was seen as parallel to acquisition of the child's first language. This method therefore emphasized the importance of sounds, simple sentences, and direct association of language with object and person of immediate environment, the classroom, the home, the garden, and etc. The second is only everyday vocabulary and sentences are taught. So basic vocabulary is given first. Third is vocabulary is taught through known words, demonstration, authentic object or real object, pictures, and miming. Fourth principles is grammar is taught inductively. There may never be an explicit grammar rule given. So do not give rules, make them figure out the rule. Fifth is new teaching points are introduced orally, so oral transmission. The sixth is both speech and listening comprehension are taught. Seventh is the teacher, by asking the student to make choice, gets him to correct his own error. So learning by self-correction. The next is the syllables is based on situations or topics, not usually on linguistic structures. So contextual or topical teaching. Next is correct pronunciation. So correct pronunciation is emphasized. And the next is students should learn to think in the target language as soon as possible. Next is the purpose of language teaching is communication. Therefore, students need to learn how to ask questions as well as communication first reference. Now let's go to the techniques of the direct method. So first is Q&A. So in Q&A, the teacher asks questions of any nature and the answer and students answer. And then the second is the dictation. So the teacher chooses a grade appropriate passage and reads the text aloud. The teacher reads the passage 3 times. The next is reading aloud. So students take turn reading sections of a passage, play or dialogue out loud. And the next is map drawing. So students are given a map without labeled. Then the students label it by using the directions the teacher gives. Then the next is paragraph writing. So the students are asked to write a passage in their own words. So the advantages of the direct method is one of its positive points is that it promises to teach the language and not about the language. Maganda ang first. Second is it is a natural method which teaches language in the same way the mother tongue is acquired. Only the target language is used and the learning is contextualized. Then the next is its emphasis on speech made it more attractive for those who have needs of real communication in the target language. It is one of the first methods to introduce the teaching of vocabulary through realias or real. Let's go to the criticism or the disadvantage of the direct method. So, in spite of its achievements, the direct method fell short from fulfilling the needs of educational systems. One of its major shortcomings is that it was hard for public schools to integrate it. As R. Brown said in 1994, points out the direct method did not take well in public schools where the constraints of budget, classroom size, time, and teacher background, or native speakers or native-like fluency made such method difficult to use. And after a short popularity in the beginning of the 20th century, it soon began to lose its appeal because of this constraint. It then paved the way to the audiolingual method, which will be discussed by the next reporter. And that's all for my part. Thank you for listening.